laugh about us. It's all good, man. Welcome to a very special edition of CK Podcast. Today we're going over the Raptors, potential free agents, and who they should target. We'll break it down into 3 tiers, go back and forth, go after or talk about how much money the Raptors have in terms of salary. Not very much, and Kenyon will talk about that. And then the overall NBA draft. Kenyon, what did you like about the Raptors selection a few days ago, last week?
Yeah, so they've been following Christian Coloco for a long time. He is basically, I believe it's 2003, Masai Ujiri went and started basketball without borders. And I believe we saw in the documentary Giants of Africa the impact that that kind of thing has. From that, you've seen guys like Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo indirectly. This guy has found a way to take advantage of the market inefficiencies and the fact that the NBA has ignored certain marketplaces. So that's where Christian Coloco
100%.
kind of initially he started playing basketball around age 16. First time was at one of those camps, and from there he ended up in the States and went to Arizona State University, and he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year.
Let me correct you. The University of Arizona, because people who
Sorry,
went
sorry.
there will, yeah, they'll be like, "Ah, we're not Arizona State." You know what I mean? Like it's super competitive between those two schools.
Sorry, I messed up with
No, all good,
with
all good.
U.S.
I mean, I've done it
names.
before too. Like I've done it, and like I'm from here, and they really
Yeah.
like almost hung my ass, man. So it was just like, hey, man, relax. I mean. I feel
Yeah.
like Arizona State, that's where James Harden went. Obviously, Michael Bibby, Arizona, and Aiden, Arizona. So, um, Coloco has a lot to live up to, right? I mean, guy's a physical specimen. What did you like about his game? And do you think that he's ready to contribute, or do you see him playing for the G League team?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be similar to Delano Banton,
Okay.
Toronto's very own.
Right.
So I think that you can expect him to play around 10, 15 minutes a game. I think that there is room for him to get minutes. And I also think that what the Raptors typically do with their prospects is they will give them a specific role.
Mm-hmm.
You fill your role in 10, 15 minutes a game. And then when you're at home for an extended home trip, or sometimes on extended road trips, they'll say you stay back and you basically get free reign of the G League team. And I think that that's a good way. So it's funny because the OVO Center and the G League and all those things, when you go up, it's called the Gardner. You can see all those things. So it's all really close, which is really rare for a lot of G League teams to be that close to their NBA team, and it's a big advantage.
It's funny how you talk about role optimization and
Yeah.
clear indication of roles. I'm like, man, it must be nice to have a good organization and like how you properly develop certain guys. Oh my god.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
But he has a little bit of passing flashes with his game, so I do want to mention that.
Okay.
I think that the university that he was at did
Yes.
not, kind of box him in to a certain role. But a lot of people say that he doesn't have any sort of or offensive upside and limit him
Hmm.
and put him into a box and say he's just Clint Capella. I think he can be a little bit more than that.
If he's
I
Clint Capella, y'all just had to steal the draft. I'm sorry. But
yeah.
like
So
Clint
so
Capella is a great, I mean, that would be amazing.
yeah. This is not shade on Clint Capella. I'm just the differences in their games. So actually, Robert and I were talking about this.
Hmm.
We were comparing and contrasting games. Uh, Both of us feel like he's kind of a version of Serge Ibaka mixed with Clint Capella. I think that that's probably more fair.
If he's either of
So
those two, you just won the draft.
yeah, so yeah, exactly. So I think
I mean, who are
he'll
we
be solid,
kidding?
right?
Yeah. As you said,
No,
I've seen
sorry, and I'm saying
snow.
no to the person.
Yes, I've.
We're not trading OG.
Uh, he said, "quote I've seen snow probably once in my life. My first
Yep.
purchase with my check will be buying a big jacket. Christian
Yeah.
Coloco. That's funny. Um, funny kid, man. Obviously going to school in Arizona. There ain't no snow there.
No.
Expect that a lot in Canada, my brother. But yes,
Yeah.
they also went out and they went out and they signed Ron Harper Jr. to a two-way contract. Quick thoughts about
Hey,
that?
we didn't get Kai Soto, but we did get someone of Filipino descent, so
Yes,
the
they
fans
did.
will be happy with that.
Yes, they did. Okay, so um, let's get into the salary cap situation, kind of break
Yep.
that down for us, and then we can get into the tiers of potential free agents.
Yeah, so the Raptors essentially have almost no cap space, so there's no point in them renouncing their free agent rights.
Hmm.
There's a long-standing joke that if you look at the cap holds on our cap sheet, there's still Nando De Colo. Everyone's like, "Why is Nando De Colo?" So yeah, like
Who the is that?
yeah, exactly. So, which is it's a holdover from like a long. I think it was Austin Day, and it was a Spurs trade, and it was Austin Day for like Nano DeColo. This is a long time ago, but yeah.
Okay,
So we hold on to that because there's no functional point in we're always going to act as an above the cap team unless there is a reason to actually go for real cap space. So we have two real tools for grabbing free agents, which is the biannual exception
mm-hmm.
and the mid-level exception,
Yep.
the full non-taxpayer mid-level. And so the difference is the non-taxpayer you can give an extra year, and it's 10.4, and I think the taxpayer is 6.4, and it's like 3 years.
Correct.
Um, so yeah.
Correct. And that's
Um,
10.264 million for the MLE, and then
yep.
it's 4.017 million for the biannual exception.
Yes. So I don't think in my head we have 12 spaces like locked up for next year, assuming Svi is on the roster, and then I am assuming that they're going to retain Thad and Boucher. That is it, there's no advantage for them to not retain them, so they're going to retain them, and I think that they have enough to get them both and the mid level exception, and still maintain some small flexibility under the luxury tax.
Okay, perfect. So let's go over your tier one.
Yep.
You have three guys. Talk about them,
Yes.
or first introduce them, and let's go over the realistic possibilities, and then who fits best for this
Yeah.
upcoming Raptor squad.
So the Raptors went into the offseason. Everyone was talking, this is why people are suggesting Rashawn Holmes. It was suggested that they needed center depth and playmaking and shooting. The Raptors basically they were on the defensive end. They were second in steal percentage. They were since January, I believe they were definitely a top five defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the 100th percentile. This is an interesting stat. Is so the 100th percentile lineup in the NBA. Do you know what that lineup is?
No
It's obvious
idea.
since I'm bringing it up. So it's Fred VanVleet, OG, Precious, Barnes, and Siakam. 100th percentile, the best defensive lineup in the NBA. Okay.
Wow,
Fortunately, they are like bottom 10 offensively. So so it's
makes
that
sense.
is your that's where your issue is. And I think that the Raptors need to rebuild their bench, and so that's what I focused on. Given that we got the one of the guys that I wanted, I was targeting Coloco and Jake LaRavia. We did not get Jake. We got Coloco. I moved toward thinking playmaking and shooting. So I focused on my tier one, and I think I changed it a little bit since talking to you. I would say Bruce Brown, Tyus Jones, and I guess a half tier from that, I would put DeLon Wright. And there's a reason why he's a half tier.
Okay, so Bruce Brown, I think,
Yep.
is one of the most underrated players in the game today. A lot of teams are going to want his services. And with all the mess that Brooklyn is going through, well, in hindsight, right? Because Kyrie just opted in, duh.
Yep.
But
Perfect timing.
yeah, perfect timing. But Bruce Brown is just a jackal of all trades. He's not great at one thing. He's just good at a lot of different things. What do you
Yes.
think is realistic for a player like him in
In
terms of
terms of
money?
like,
Money.
so my tier one, all of the guys that I targeted in my tier one and two, I think are worth the full mid level exception. I think that there's only 5 teams, and you can count some of them out, that have realistic functional cap room and can go after guys. So it limits you, right?
So
Like
the
in
static
terms of,
is
it's not a
back.
great market.
So your static is back.
Okay. Well,
Okay. Okay.
we'll give up
There it
on
is.
that. Okay. Can you hear
Perfect.
me?
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, where was it? Yeah. So my tier, my top tier, or my
Hmm.
top two, focus on mid-level exception, and as in the full non-taxpayer, the 10 point whatever. You might give them a little bit less just to give you, $100,000 less. But that's where you're
Hmm.
going. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then how do you see Bruce Brown fitting?
So again, if it goes one out of two ways, right? Like either you're gonna have a guy. Okay, in my world, I would put Gary Trent off the bench and assure him, okay, you're gonna get paid either way because that's all you,
100%.
Mister
100%.
Stacks of Cash, my Instagram. That's all I
Right.
care about. So your money's good. I also think that there is a chance that Gary Trent might not be there to start the year. I think that there is a chance that he's not. So
Do you think they
either
trade him?
I would be, yeah, it would, he would, yeah, basically. Um, so
Interesting.
yeah,
For
we
what
can
or
talk
for
about,
who?
well, I suggested Bogdanovich, so I'm still on that.
Okay.
But,
Would you trade him
for,
for Rashawn Holmes?
no.
Because I wouldn't either. I mean, from like the other, I'm not a Gary Trent fan, but I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people who just look at box score numbers and just look at age, they'll be like, yeah, let's get Gary Trent Jr. Like we see
Yeah.
highlights, we see these big stretches of him scoring points, and I'm like, yeah, but he's not a starting shooting guard in my opinion in the NBA.
Yeah, I think if your team is optimized, he should not be one of your
Right.
top 5 players playing. But I think he can be. He should still get 30 minutes a game, let's say, and that's those are pretty solid numbers in terms of minutes to get. But yeah, so either way, I think that they need shooting off the bench, and I think that they just need shooting in general. So that's where your Bruce Browns come from. That's where I actually took Gary Harris off of it just because I don't think that the playmaking upside is quite there. It could be there in a pinch, but I just don't think that it's quite where I would like it to be.
You had
Um,
Prince in there too.
I actually moved him to my tier two.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so you
so
have Bruce Brown, Tyus Jones, my bad. I'm
yeah,
kind of going back and forth. Okay, Tyus Jones, tier
yep.
one. I mean, I really like this kid. He's just a very solid NBA player, can back you up, right? And if Fred gets injured, he's a guy that can play solid defensively,
Yep.
can really put his teammates and like run the offense well. So he'd be a solid get. I mean, he's probably gonna get the mid-level exception, right?
Yeah, I have a feeling that if I have a feeling that Memphis doesn't mind just paying him. Yes, he is better than Buddy Hield. Sorry. Just
Hey, I don't know about that. I don't
no,
know
no, no.
about
I've
that.
seen someone else say, is Gary Trent Jr. better than
I
Buddy
don't know if
Hield?
he's better than Buddy Hield. Like I really
Why?
don't.
Why do you say he's not?
Because Buddy Hield does one thing at an elite level, and that's
Okay.
shoot the basketball. Like at a like historic
How old's Buddy
level.
Hield?
Yeah, but I mean, we're saying right now though. Like, is he better than him right now? I mean, that's the question. It's not. Is he better than
Gary
him?
Trent
And
shot the basketball at a pretty like above 80th percent. Without me looking at the numbers, he's definitely in the 80th percentile for shots
If
in
Buddy
terms of
Hill played on the Raptors, his percentage would be a lot higher. I just
if
tell you
he
that
played on the
much.
Raptors, he wouldn't play because he doesn't play defense, right?
No, but the Raptors would actually hide him just like they had Gary Trent Jr.
You're like
Um,
fair play. Yeah,
yeah,
so like yeah, I don't get me wrong. Like Buddy Hield as a shooter is an amazing shooter. He is definitely one of the best shooters I've ever seen.
no doubt.
But
The
the
guys can
problem
shoot.
is that it like I already have told you multiple times, I value defense, right? The Raptors value defense, and Nick Nurse and the Raptors believe that you can teach someone how to shoot, you can teach them how to dribble, you can work on those other skills, but the defensive skills are a lot harder to build as a foundation. But we could always talk about that
That's
another.
true.
That's a whole.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah,
So Tyus
um,
Jones probably gets overpaid, right?
yep.
Um, do you think is it crazy to think that that a lot of Raptor fans would be like, I want him to start over, say, even a guy like Trent or even a guy like Fred, or is that like overzealous a little bit?
Like, do I think Raptors fans will say that, or
Yeah,
what do I think?
both.
I don't think he should start because who I want to be the point guard,
Yeah, I
right?
mean we all. I mean
And
all the smart Raptor fans do at least.
like to be honest, like Fred Van Vliet as a off ball threat, like I looked
It's
at his
better.
numbers, I looked at his advanced numbers, and I felt like how Robert felt, and I still do. Like he slows down the offense in a number of ways, and he controls the narrative, right? I've heard that like idea, and it's true. If you are the primary ball handler, the initiator on offense, you control the narrative, you control who gets it. So I mean, I don't want to make this into like a reasons why I don't like Fred, but the reasons why I like Fred is that he is elite, elite, elite. Like what do you think he shoots in catch and shoot?
42%.
44,
Mm, that's pretty good.
right? Like it's like Devin Booker level good in terms of his catch and shoots, right? The where he struggles is he struggles to do rim pressure, which I think is really important as a point guard or as a primary ball handler. But yeah,
Again, that's so funny that you just said 44%. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying. Like role optimization. How do you
yeah,
optimize your player to put him in the best positions to succeed? And that's where Buddy gets flagged. Just going back to Buddy, it's like if you actually set him up for success and you run him like a Duncan Robinson type guy and not just expect him just to put him in the corner and just like
mm,
spread the floor out. Like yeah, like you're gonna spread the floor out because they're gonna top block you regardless, right? Because you're a great shooter. But I mean, depending on how you use a player, the narrative is gonna change. And yes, he doesn't play.
absolutely.
And yes, he doesn't play defense. But no one played defense on the Kings. That makes sense. Like if he actually bought into a
Yeah, well,
system, you know what I'm saying? Like
that's part of the problem.
right. So that's my point. Like the
Yeah,
perception and like the narrative
yeah,
changed if he actually bought into a system. And if you're not buying into Raptors culture, I don't know what is it. But that's why I feel like when they say who's better, and I've seen him at his like top level in terms of shooting and what the Raptors need. I mean, shoot, if Van Vliet's shooting 44%, I don't know, man. That's crazy. But yes,
yeah.
Tyus Jones, Bruce Brown. And then who else you had in tier one now in your updated one?
Yeah, so I just left it at that, and then I said half a
Okay.
tier down was DeLon
Okay.
Wright. The reason why
Okay,
I
he's
put DeLon,
back.
yeah, so that's why I put DeLon Wright as a half tier down. Is like
He's a
I
good
don't
player.
know if his shooting. He's always been a spotty shooter. So I don't know if last year was an aberration or if that's where he is settling at as a shooter. I also think that when he left the Raptors, he had a little bit of issues behind the scenes in terms of uh, inconsistent role. So I think that you'd
Hmm.
have to iron out, hey, this is your role, and this is what we expect, and that's not that this is yours to lose, kind of a thing. I think if you do that, then he is a really, really good fit. And again, two-way play, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why I like two-way play. There's a reason why I don't like guys like Buddy Hield. No offense to Buddy Hield,
Mm-hmm.
great, at what he does, but I think in terms of if you want you look at the NBA finals, you look at the NBA, like I kept saying, like the quote unquote Final Four, the conference finals, right? And you to be effective, you need everyone to be at the very least an average defender. You can't have a pylon. In terms of the Raptors, I think Fred has his limitations, so I'll bring that up right now. But when he's healthy, as a they call the role a point of attack, he is still one of the best point of attack defenders, which is why he's always talked about for all NBA defense specifically.
Yeah, he's
Not
good.
all NBA. So yeah.
He's good. He's good.
Here too. Continuing on with Memphis guys, Kyle Anderson.
Slow mo. Slow
Yeah,
mo.
Mo. And I have Tayshaun. Sorry, Torian Prince, I should say.
Okay.
So
So which guy would you prefer, and which guy's a better fit?
Torian Prince is a Raptors guy, right? You just he's a wing. He shoots well. Depending on the advanced metrics, like yes, if you look at just the box plus minus, he has had a couple years where he has been down. But then I look at okay, what role was he playing on? What kind of teams? Like he was playing on a Nets team when Kyrie was not. I think was Kyrie playing on that first year. I know KD was recovering, so it was Kyrie at times, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't remember. It's been a while, but and then yeah. So I don't really think that that's fair. And then he was on a couple weird teams, and then he's on like Minnesota when Minnesota's not really great. So I don't really hold that against him, but he shoots the ball close to 40%. Routinely. He plays defense. He can play make. He can do a bit of everything. He's 6'7", has a long wingspan. He is a Raptors guy. And if you have Gary Trent on the bench with him, that is interesting.
Does he
That
get the buy? Does he get the biannual?
I think to pull him out of Minnesota, you have to give him maybe not the full the full, but let's say 9, right?
Okay, interesting. So what? 2 years, 20. 2
3 years.
years,
I give him
18.
3 years. Yeah, I think the Raptors need to stop like playing around with player options and like short, you know what I mean? Because that's where you're getting into trouble. And I think just give him 3 years, and then at
Three
the end of that,
years. What? 3 years.
too.
27.
3 years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Math works out.
3 years, 27. Yeah, I mean that's a good player. That's a good
Yeah.
player. And then tier three.
Tier three are kind of guys where I'm like, you could potentially talk yourself into being like a maybe even a biannual exception. But Lonnie Walker is interesting.
I
I don't
love
think.
that kid. I
Yeah.
I love him. I just feel like he just hasn't had the right situation for him because when you look
Yeah.
at his talent, his characteristics, his potential two-way play, I mean, he can be a darn good player.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I think Lonnie Walker is someone that I would really like, and I think you could have him under the full MLE. So I think that's what I would kind of go for. Um, I I don't know if the biannual is too low, but
It might be.
he's an interesting guy. That's what I'll say. Um,
If y'all get if there's a team like for him to go for a biannual, it like needs to be like a good team. And I would put the Raptors under under that category of good teams of like contenders, I guess, like playoff contenders at least.
yeah,
But if it's someone like the Kings, like they gotta offer like the MLE. Like you have to offer him more money, like double his money, just to
yeah,
entice him to come. And the same, for your other guy, Malik Monk, who y'all can
yeah,
offer him the biannual, and he's talked about taking less for the Lakers again. Good teams, whether they, good teams in terms of like at least reputation wise, because the Lakers suck. But he's willing to take less money there. But someone like the
yeah.
Kings, they may have to offer the full MLE for a guy like Malik Monk.
Yeah, and he's in my tier three because again, the defense. but he can create his own shot, and he's
That's
someone that the Raptors I know were interested in the year before. So I could see them, chasing him a little bit, but
and you know why?
uh,
Because that's a guy that could buy in. And I keep telling you about this. Like
yeah, yeah,
guys like him, buddy. Like those guys, they can shoot the rock, and like if they just buy in, they may not be
yeah,
negatives on defense, and just hold their own to where they're not a positive. Like don't never be a positive, but if you can just
yeah.
accept, you know, a zero, like plateauing now, and not being like a net negative. Someone like the Raptors who have so many good defenders, they can live with a guy that can score the ball like that in
Yeah, and
bunches.
I think it's an interesting thing. I think that it has to be done before a certain age if you're gonna try to do those. Like, I'm gonna try to buy in, and you also have to look at other
You
factors.
don't
But
have to, and this is why. And I keep telling
yeah,
you and Robert this. Yeah, like you don't have to, only because these guys aren't your star players. So when
well,
you bring in
so
but when you bring in a
yeah,
role player, like all you need to do is maximize either that 1, 2, or 3 years. That's it, and then you bring in the next role player because not everyone can play defense at a high level in the NBA, and that's the thing where I see players. I'm like, when I visualize a team. I don't need this guy to be Scottie Barnes. You know what I mean? Like, there's only one Scottie
yeah. So
Barnes.
so I think that's so okay. This is actually a good segue to talk sort of about the Kings and about the NBA
Right.
at large, if you want, right? So I think it's just because I see your your listeners are debating whether the Kings are too depressing or they want to talk about the Kings. So I think that this is part of the problem with certain how some teams team build and how other teams team build, right? I think I agree with Nick Nurse and the Raptors' philosophy in that learning how to shoot and improving those and that end of the basketball game is easier for a player to improve on because you can work on your jumper a lot easier than it is to understand like how do you work on defense in practice, you know what I mean, like like during the summer it's kind of hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like like most of the time when they're doing those runs, they're not really practicing defense, right? And you kind of have to experience it and you have to do a lot of film study. And I think I have a theory. This is just me putting my thoughts out there, but I do think that the level of defense, specifically like positionally defense, that a guy comes into the league with might be indicative of his basketball IQ level. Because if you can understand defense really well, you can definitely understand offensive positioning. Because that's how you're viewing it. You're seeing this is where things should go. This is how I need to communicate, and then from there you can improve. And I think that that's something. Now Keegan Murray, I think he's going to defend,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think that that's something that the Kings have lacked, and I think that if you pamper players too much early on, or if you don't really hit hard on that side of the ball early on, you get stuck with guys where it's harder to buy in because my whole brain is wired this way, right?
I agree 1,000% with that. But I'm just saying, in terms of what the
Mm.
Raptors have right now, they have enough, two-way or just good defenders. And in the playoffs, where they couldn't find the buckets to like save their lives, that's where you need
Mm.
like a microwave type of scorer that can get his own, whether he's a net negative or not on defense. I don't care how
Yeah,
many stops you get. I mean, just look at the historic Celtics. They couldn't find the bucket. And
yeah, I
that's a
yeah.
problem.
I think the other thing is that above a little bit above shooting. So I hear you, and I don't disagree. The one thing that I value above shooting is playmaking, and I don't think that any team
Right.
can have enough playmaking. And so
100%.
the real question is, okay, let's say Malik Monk buys in, he's an average defender, hypothetically.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I can go with that, right? Or you can build the system.
100%.
Sure.
Because, like,
My
he'll get
question,
you 30 points off the bench on a random night. When, like,
because that, but this is my question is, he likes to shoot, right?
sure.
And the Raptors already have two guys, no offense to GTJ, but that like to shoot, right? And like
Right.
to shoot a lot. And I think that they need to go towards more playmaking. And when they went towards more playmaking, when they went to higher upside playmakers, partially because of their physical tools, being able to overcome others' limitations physically, right? I mean, if you're 6'9" versus being 5 feet, 11, like it's a lot easier to make passes over the top of the defense or to see things and to see the
Right.
floor because you're
Yeah.
up. If I went on a ladder, and I can see the whole thing, I can see more, right? So
But there aren't many good playmakers like in the NBA. At
in the
least that are
NBA,
like role player playmakers. Like
yeah.
the
So
the elite
I
players are very good playmakers. Like the very
yeah,
good ones, but like like the buddies, like the Gary Trents, like the Malik Monks.
yeah,
I don't expect those guys to be good playmakers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. But that's why my tier one is my tier one, right? With Tyus Jones and so
yeah,
now
yeah,
it makes sense. That's why I'm like, yeah, I like Malik
yeah.
Monk, and I wouldn't be mad if the Raptors get him, but he's tier three. And I think last but not least is that obviously Koloko's there, but if for some reason you lose one of that or Boucher, I'll just throw two other really quick names. It would be Hartenstein, for
Good
sure, would
player.
be interesting. I don't know if I agree with others saying that you have to give him the full mid-level exception
For
because like he's
who?
for Hartenstein. Other people have suggested that. I don't
Hell
agree with it.
no.
That's not for me, by the way.
Oh
I
my
don't.
god. Oh
I
my. If you give
That's
that
not for
man
me.
the full MLE, man, I think I'm gonna turn
You're
my
not
damn head.
like this is not mine. I'm just saying some people have said that, right? And I
Oh.
don't think that's that level, but I would take a run at him if if that or
For the
Boucher is
biannual, I don't know about the mid
yeah.
level.
Exactly, precisely. The other one that I would do would be Jalen Smith because of that weird contract situation where they can only offer him a certain amount. You can easily outbid him or outbid the Pacers, right? So like that's the thing is like I like the upside of Jalen Harris. I think he's basically Chris Boucher, but he can shoot better already. So that's what I'm digging.
Okay, perfectly. So that has been your Raptors potential free agent targets. Now, before we end the show, let's
For
go
sure.
over the league
Let's do it.
news, which there's been a lot of league news. I mean, they're all over the place.
We can talk about
Again,
if you scroll out, talk
we
about the Kyrie itself first.
yeah, so we kind of talked about this already. So Malik Monk is open to taking less money to return to Lakers. So for me, he'd be a tier 2 free agent for the Raptors just because I just feel like he fits. And there again, and no surprise, the Raptors front office is actually, interested in him. So that's that. Kyrie, right? Let's see where Kyrie's at.
I think it was there.
Here it is.
Sorry.
Kyrie, man. I mean, who the hell would take $6 million when they can get $37 million and like not show up to work half the time?
Yeah, well, I could go on a rant. I won't today. But yeah,
What if he went to the Raptors? That'd be sick.
I would not like that.
I was joking.
I don't even know at today he can't even make it past the border.
That's funny. I know.
He can
But
on his
but
side.
but but like Kyrie the player is amazing. It's just Kyrie like the outside of Kyrie, outside of basketball
Kyrie as
Kyrie.
the entity is
Yes.
a lot to handle, and you don't know what day and how and like this man. Do you remember a couple years ago he just like up and left?
Yeah.
Like he put Dennis Rodman. He just like
Yeah.
essentially, and then he was partying.
He
And
could
he,
easily
and then he
retire
was
tomorrow.
using anyway. I'm not trying to make fun of someone's like mental health, and I do think
Yeah.
mental health. I told you that before. I think it's serious, but I do think that there are times when that's why it's important to have an organized. Like, okay, this is what I think that happened with Kyrie Irving. I
Okay.
think that if you pay attention, and I was talking to someone about this, but also I went back and looked at the timeline. What do you remember what he said in the? I think it was this season about management, about how they don't need a GM and they don't need a coach and they don't need this. So he basically trashed the whole organization, right? Can you
That's
imagine that this
gross.
guy trashes your entire organization? You're Steve Nash. You got brought on. It's like I don't need you. Okay, that's not a good look, right?
No, it's not. It's just
And
super
then
disrespectful.
and then this guy is trying to angle for I want to raise and I want you to fully guarantee it, even though I might not show up. I'll show up. He basically got bad habits from LeBron because LeBron would do that, but LeBron kind of earned whether people agree with this or not. LeBron earned the right, and LeBron would show up when it mattered,
100%.
right? Like
100%.
LeBron showed up when it mattered, and
Yeah.
he
But
showed
like,
up for
please
his
don't
team.
ever compare Kyrie. If anyone, please don't ever compare Kyrie to LeBron James, man. I mean,
He
the best player of
like
this
the fact
generation.
it was crazy that it's like, do you remember a couple years ago when someone said like he's basically a father figure to Kyrie,
That was
and Kyrie
funny.
got all salty, and I'm like, wait, you want to go back to the memes of him going to Daddy's house would have been insane.
Insane.
I kind of wish
Insane.
he went. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's move on to John Wall. The LA
Sorry.
Clippers will
Yep.
make a strong pitch for John Wall, who opted in to his $47 million player option, which is insanity. He hasn't played in 2 years. And yeah, I honestly, this may be a meme or not a meme, or I don't know what people think. I think John Wall can play still. Obviously not
Yeah.
as a starter, but definitely as a backup. And he'd be a nice backup with the Clippers. That's all. I mean, that's my take
He has
on
gas
this.
left in the tank considering he didn't play for like what, a year and a half. So
He might come out just killing. Like, who knows?
yeah. So, but I mean, as much as I joke, it's a good pickup. I like it.
Yeah, like if they get him, which they probably will, that should be a good pickup. Kevon Looney is expected to re-sign with the Golden State Warriors on a multi-year deal in free agency. Interesting.
Yep.
Pay him so he can fix that gap in his teeth. That's what Bubble TJ Warren said. Come on, man. That's mean. Um, uh,
Then he wouldn't
this
be able
one,
to use straws as easy.
that's
Um,
true. That's a fact. This is this is crazy. But if this
yeah, I've
happens,
heard about this.
I would love for the Raptors to trade for this man. Like I
I
would
do.
trade.
Yeah.
I mean, I would trade whatever. Like in terms of Fred and Gary, I don't care. Like if I'm a
Yep.
Kings fan, I'm trading for this man, and I'm gonna put him next to Fox. I don't care what people say in terms of a fit. You worry about that later. Like this guy is a hooper. I mean, he.
He could
I,
play, and he would make a difference on the Raptors.
yes.
I would love to get him.
On every team. I mean, this guy is
Oh yeah. For sure.
a defensive monster.
Okay, here's a question: would you trade Fox for Dejounte Murray?
No, I would
Okay.
trade. I would trade
I
the
just
other
wanted to throw it
pieces.
out there just to see.
Yeah, yeah. Like I would trade the other pieces to put them together.
Okay. Okay.
I
You
feel
wouldn't
like.
worry about having too short of a backcourt.
I mean, Dejounte Murray has a huge wingspan, and
True.
he's guarding everybody pretty much. I mean, he is the Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Like he's. So when it comes to that, like you put a dog who's just a dog defensively, a great
Yeah.
guy that can attack the basket just as good as Fox, that has a solid mid-range game, not as good as Fox's, but like pretty close as Fox. Both can't shoot, but
Yeah. That's
yet, but yet, I mean, but yet again, like he's good off the ball as a weak side cutter. Like he doesn't need the ball to be effective like that. Fox does. So you have Sabonis in the high post. You get his great defensive versatility. You get his great weak side cutting. That fits to me. Like on so many levels. Like if people were talking about Jaden Ivey potentially fitting, I think Murray can fit a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Because like he actually plays defense.
So I like using the term "set the table" because you put the placemats out and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he does a good job of setting the table for guys. I'm really curious to see what the Spurs do because I think that they have the French connection with Tony Parker for the kid next year. So
Yeah,
I
number one pick.
see that working out, and I would love for them to get that. So.
God
Um,
diggity, if they get the number one pick, it's just like history repeating itself with Tim Duncan. You know what I'm saying?
can you imagine how mad OKC fans would be after all of
Oh,
this?
oh my! What are they mad about? Like they literally have like the longest team in the world right now.
Yeah, that's yeah. I heard. So I have a friend. Shout out to Tim who said this. He
Yep.
said they have the thin towers.
Facts. That's funny as hell. So it says that John Collins is not part of a deal. It would be Gallo, multiple firsts.
Yep.
If that's all it takes,
Yeah, I saw that before. It's basically like a salary dump. That's why I'm like, they're if they do this, this is them tanking, right? And
But
yeah,
it's them tanking, and it's like them getting like first round picks. I guess whoever they trade
never
him
gone
to.
into a proper rebuild, right? If you
Yeah,
think
but
about
like right, but like whoever they trade him to will probably be a lot better, right? So the picks
oh
won't
yeah.
be as high. So
Yeah, no. Well, it depends on what else, but yes, in general, yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah,
okay, okay.
that's one.
Simons and Nurkic are expected to stay with the Blazers.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Simons is a restricted free agent, if I'm not mistaken. And
Hmm.
then I a couple weeks ago, I heard Nurkic was likely to resign. So I figured this would happen. I think it makes sense, but I kind of want the Blazers to not move off Nurkic, but I still want them to try to
Facts.
get it. You know, I
Yes.
want them to get the next guy. So
Um, Iman Shumpert. Okay, this one. The Nets just jumped the Pistons for the second best odds to land DeAndre Ayton at plus 300. The Suns are at plus 135, and the Pistons are at plus 350. So the Nets jump from 4,000 to 3. Wow, that's a huge jump.
how?
I don't know. I mean, it. Someone said sign and trade center around KD.
Yeah.
Bro, that
Like,
would be insane. Oh
I
my
don't think KD
god.
is going. I don't think KD is going anywhere now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But can you imagine that? Like
Yeah, that'd be
KD,
wild.
Chris, and watch out, Warriors. No,
Yeah.
but I don't see how that makes sense, right? Like not anymore. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, if they were going to get KD, it would have had to been Booker in the deal, most likely, right?
the Blazers and the Nets have inquired about KJ Martin. Look, man. Like
So
I like
I want him
KJ.
on the Raptors.
Yeah, you
I
do.
haven't tried to get him, but continue on. Let's go. Let's talk about this.
You
So what do you
see
think?
like super upside on him or what?
I think he's still young. I think he has defensive potential, and he shoots pretty well. I like him. I like him a lot. He recently basically asked for a trade out of there,
Yeah.
so I like it. My trade for him would probably be a second round pick, Malachi Flynn, and
That's a good deal for them
I think that would
because
work
he's not
out.
gonna play. I mean, they just drafted Eason, who's a stud, right, out of LSU. Um,
You would think that they need a point guard too if they're going to get rid of like a
sure,
backup point because they're
right.
getting rid of Wall. So Wall's not going to, they need someone.
That's true. I mean, that's probably the deal you guys make. That's pretty solid. Okay. So KJ Martin confirmed to Toronto. The Lakers offer a sign and trade center around Russell Westbrook. Yeah, right. Psych. Katie don't want to play with that man. Stop it. Um, who is this? John Morant doing stupid John Morant things as he typically does, right? I mean, he's out here dancing. WAP.
So I guess the ankle feels good.
The ankle feels real good. Oh my god, his freaking head was at the rim. Miles Bridges is expected to test free agency.
So
He's
do the
not
Kings
being
have any?
offered, from what I am told, a max contract.
Yeah.
So he is gonna go out into the marketplace starting on Thursday, Friday, and see if he can get the offer from somewhere else. Wow.
Do the Kings have cap space?
So the Kings have the same thing the Raptors have, just the
Right.
mid level, the biannual, but they have two TPEs, which aren't much. So they don't
Yeah.
have
Okay.
much money to
It's
spend.
like
Yeah.
5 million or something. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's something small. It's not anything like I think it's a 4 million trade exception and a 1.6 trade exception.
I'll pull a Vince and I'll suggest a crazy Kings trade. So
Which one? Which one? Give it to me.
shout out to Vince.
Shout out
I,
to
love,
Vince.
I just checked out his channel actually. He earned a subscriber, so right on. A sign and trade involving one of your favorite guys, HB, for Miles Bridges,
I mean, that makes
or,
sense.
or there's your Rashawn Holmes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they would use Rashawn
They,
Holmes.
they need a center. I mean, I
So
know that they just drafted Mark Williams, but
so contrary to what you just said, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially for the Kings. But if they're gonna lose this man, right, to a max contract,
yep.
I mean, how would that work in terms of for the Kings? That makes sense because if he
So
wants the
I think
max,
there's like a weird thing where because he is still a restricted free agent with sign and trade, you don't have to come up with the exact salary in a sign and trade. I think it's less. So I'm going to use the Aiton example where it's like if you paid Aiton the max, you'd have to have $20 million outgoing, even though his salary would start well above $20 million. So I think it would be something where you'd have to come up with, let's say, $20 million or $17 million, whatever he's eligible for, or close to that,
mm,
and then you offer him like this is your role. Like he would be one of the premier players on the Kings. That
so
I like that move for the Kings if they
so
do
it'd
that.
be HB Rashawn. That's about $30 million right there.
I'm not saying HB and Rashawn,
No,
so I'm
no,
not.
yeah, or just hypothetically
Yeah,
say that, right?
I'll let
Because
you close. You know
either
the
way,
Kings.
right? Because either way, if they're gonna lose, Miles or something, you might as well get something in return, right?
Yeah,
So just say that's $30 million. Say he wants 35. God dang it, it just hurts my heart saying that. 35 per year. Would that work? Like
it
so.
would be close. It would be close. And what if you could somehow get PJ Washington back on one of your trade exceptions or something?
Oh my god, I love that. All of a sudden, you just revamped your whole roster, pretty much.
See that, see that's the type of move that I would love to see the Kings do.
But so you're able to offer that type of money even if you don't have the money?
Yeah, so it's I'd have to look, but like you do, like I'd have to look at the exact number that you need, and then I could propose something to you later.
Okay.
But like I know for a fact that you don't have it doesn't have to be a one for one money wise, and it goes beyond the 125% right. So yeah,
Okay. And then John Wall will become an unrestricted free agent. Kind of talked about that already. That's good. John Wall will sign with the Clippers once he. Oh well, that's already done then. He's
there you
going
go.
to the Clippers. He's going to the L.A. Clippers, man. Well, that's
Great
gonna
talk.
do it, y'all, man. It was fun. This was the Raptors 3 tiers of potential realistic free agents. Had a couple of technical difficulties early on. We'll slice that. Have
Sorry about that.
YouTube just start it. No, I mean that's on me. Because then it was you and then it was me playing like some video in the background. I'm like, what the hell am I? I'm like, I'm hearing saltwater aquariums. I'm like, oh, that's me. I said,
Yeah.
but no, man, it was fun. Thank you,
We
Kenny.
talked about Kings. We talked about Kings.
We did. We talked about that. The Kings getting Zach LaVine if Chicago doesn't offer the $200 million deal. Um,
Yeah.
he's not. Wait, he's not restricted though, is he? He's unrestricted.
No, he's unrestricted, but I mean they would be in again. There's no teams with cap space, so except for
That.
five. So there's an. It could happen. It could happen.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add for the Raptors in terms of trades or anything crazy?
Um, if it's possible, okay. First of all, Svi needs to get off this team.
Thank you.
Uh,
I've been telling Robert that forever. I don't know why he was so high on him. Like I was like, bro, like
yeah, that's
he's a 14 type guy. Like I mean
yeah.
that's who he is.
I won't roast Robert too much for his preseason Svi pick, but
Yeah.
Svi was good in the preseason, and then
I call him SVI. He gets mad.
But yeah, so he just opted in to his
God
his.
diggity.
I see him getting added in a trade somehow and getting out of town, packing his bags.
Well, I hope the Raptors get Bogey because that's my guy. May have to visit him in Toronto. So if that happens. That would be amazing. But other than that,
Thanks
man,
for having
thank
me
you
on, by the way,
guys.
man.
Thank you guys so much. My voice is still pretty shitty. I do have COVID. I think I'm pretty much done. Like I've already gone through like the bad part of it. I'm feeling better. So maybe tomorrow or Wednesday I'll be clear to go. Take the test again, test negative, and we good to go. But that's going to do it, y'all. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe for more content like this as well. Stay tuned for a Kevin Durant pre-recorded video from my guy Ty. We'll be releasing that. I'm not sure. It depends on when I edit it, but that's coming out. Kenny's going to do some breakdowns. I'm going to put him on the spot. Hopefully soon, man, because I'm trying to that. Vince, shout out to Vince. We actually talked about Vince earlier. He said Bomba to Toronto.
No.
No, that's not happening. That's exactly why he earned a subscription, man. But other than that, man, thank you guys so much on behalf of the entire CK family, Basketball Zone family. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.